And then a few years ago, it became NowCreate and became more of a best practices library, which is what we're going to show you today. And oh, yes, Thomas is coming from Germany. It's 18 degrees Fahrenheit. That's still not super warm. And we've got Jake from the UK. So good morning, everybody. And like I said, we'll start at 3 minutes after the hour. So we'll give it another minute or so here. Thank you all for showing up today. Excited to have you. So we'll just give it another minute. And while we're waiting, Philippe, do you want to let folks know where you're coming in from today?
Hey, good morning. Guten Morgen. Guten Tag. I'm from Colombia. Recently moved out from Honduras and, well, right now located in Medellin, Colombia. So I have been with the ecosystem for almost 12 years. I started like everybody else as a sysadmin developer, and my main specialist role is, transformation, technology transformation for the implementations, and senior education advisor at Riverhorse.
And we're delighted to have you. So it is 3 minutes after the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get this party started here. First, we have our slide here to talk, to show you a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, ServiceNow's NowCreate implementation methodology. If you haven't been into it, this is a screenshot that shows you what it looks like when you log in. And then we just have our title slide here. And then I just want to walk through the forward-looking statements here real quick. If there's any statements made here that pertain to additional features or capabilities coming in the platform, they are not promises of them actually showing up or the timelines that might be referred to. And also this session is being recorded, so please don't share any information if you come off of mute that would be confidential and potentially hazardous to your continuous employment. So without further ado, we'll get to the agenda here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Philippe. So he's going to do a little bit more of an introduction and then get into some topics here, talking about understanding our NowCreate gosh, easy for me to talk, methodology, key components of NowCreate, and maturing in the ServiceNow model here with the crawl, walk, run, and then best practices for successful implementation. If you have any questions during the webinar, please drop those into the Q&A. We want to make sure that we get a chance to answer all of those. So if we don't answer all of them during the webinar, we will post a blog later with the answers to those. And also, if you at any time want to come off mute and ask a question live, you can raise your hand and we can see if we can take a stopping point there. And also, please feel free to interact in the chat with the content that's going on here. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to you, Philippe, since you're the expert here.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening for the ones that maybe are in different schedules. It's a big, big pleasure going back here to basics. It has been a long term not making this type of webinars or programs. Today, my idea is presenting you what most people knows, but they are not truly getting into the weeds or going behind the scenes on NowCreate, which is basically one of the typical things that we begin or we start working with. So the purpose of this webinar is showing you that as well, at some point, if maybe you are not really aware on how NowCreate works, you can work this process or this statement, this methodology outside your company. You can start practicing if you would like to become a platform owner, a service owner, a business process consultant, or a business analyst. Remember, this part of the system is most not on the technical degree side of scripting, coding, enhancement actions. Is more like how we can create the baseline consumption of ServiceNow of the ecosystem and how we can retain those, good practices or best practices across the different implementations of the features: ITSM, ITOM, ITPM, ITAM, CSM, HR, FSM, and even application development. I listened sometime, Rita, and I remember this phrase. I was presenting once to a person beginning a platform structure for a company, and I showed them up NowCreate, and this person was telling me, whoa, 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 but this seems like a Lamborghini, and we want to create, the mini car. And I was, don't feel that this is something that will be creating constraints to you. Don't think about minis. Think about the major environment that you can create. Even if your platform is out of the box, if your platform is working only with ITSM, try to use or try to be in the richness part of the system and try to make it accurate for the system. So the final goal or the objective of this webinar is showing you how NowCreate provides to you the process too. I'm not a really eager expert on here. Well, we are going to crawl. I know certain things, but I don't know how to make it better or how to implement it with OCM because I'm not an expert on OCM. We are going to walk. You know how we have been running through this implementation sets and we have to use it. We have to export the system. We have to import the system on the platform. We already know that. How we can make it better, how we can do continual service improvement or make it faster. That's when we are going to run for everybody. So that's basically the objective, that everybody knows how NowCreate works, how we are going to invest the methodology in our enhancement and environments, and how we can make it better for our own consumption on our clients, customers, or company itself. So basically, that's the main goal objective. In terms to go through, basically, we need to, understand what it means. One of the things is how this works. Well, NowCreate has three main purposes. One is we need to attach a strategy on how to divide the implementation of ServiceNow. First part. Second option is, well, if you are making an implementation, you need stages. You need a way to simplify the actions, or you need to know who will be involved, how they are going to be involved, and which responsibility they will have. So you need to know, or you need to have a loop cycle or an emphasis. That life cycle is what NowCreate provides. We are going to show you a demo in a brief, and we are going to, subtract some details that are really important for everybody. And number three, we need to segregate who will be the people that defines the process, which will be stakeholder, user emphasis, user experience, interface, all these actions. But as well, we need to identify how we can educate the people. Because remember, we are not working here alone. We have a Scrum team, we have developers, we have consultants, we have an architect, we have sometimes people that is related to the sizing of the data. We have people that works for the business analyst, for the business intelligence. So remember that ServiceNow has been trying to cover the umbrella and give the emphasis on every adoption and every type or title user action that we go through. If you need platform analytics, well, we have business intelligence. If you need co-creation for different user experience environments, we have Workflow Studio, UI Builder, Service Portal. So there is a different way or random uh, access of information, or you have a tree of information that you have to divide and you have to segregate accurately for the people that will be invoked and will be working on the system. Therefore, here is one of the hints. One of the important things that you have to go through is the order. The order gives you a proper strategy and a proper alignment, because this gives you the chance to know what will come first. I should start creating, I should start configuring, I should start customizing, I should start testing the system before integrating with other units. And one of the things that it's really important is once you watch a company using a clear strategic alignment, which means, all right, we buy ServiceNow, we got ServiceNow, what we are going to do with ServiceNow, what are our licenses, which is our structure, which is our framework. Most likely, the people starts with ITSM. You know that ITIL framework is managed services. but ITIL can be used in a bakery shop, in a butcher shop, in a retail shop, logistics. The ways that you can use it properly and you can align the system to your needs. Same happens like ITIL goes through ITSM and other frameworks such as CSM, FSM. Here, what we do with NowCreate is we try to align our system not only for ITSM, CSM, FSM, we try to do it with HR, asset management, discovery, service mapping, cloud management, application development. So one of the things that we need to go through is providing you the clearance, the value, the concept of making the value stream and the co-create value that NowCreate gives to you instead of using typical waterfall or typical stories that you build out. ServiceNow gives you some default stories that you can consume, or even you can read or rewrite them to your convenience. So that's one of the important areas that you might validate or you might consume, right? So be really careful once you're doing the alignment or the strategy on how you will implement your implementation process or your situation alliance to your needs. The other thing that we go through is how your services goes into this process. Service lifecycle integration is really in the minimum style or in the minimal ISO to give you the strategy on how you can perform or a better approach to your system needs. We know that most of the companies that they buy or they purchase ServiceNow, they already got other frameworks, other platform, other techniques, other allowance implementation applications. Sometimes, well, we bought ServiceNow because they told us that we will have, better revenue, better actions. Now we know that ServiceNow is providing Gen AI, Agent AI for everything, and we know that we got machine learning. But what can I do if I have other third-party components and I want to still use them? Well, there are tons of ways that you can consume. So once you start crawling and you want to walk, one of the typical things that you need to walk is to understand which will be your other endpoints inside the environment. And once you have or you identify all the endpoints through the environment, that gives you the entire service property to identify where you bring the info, how you push the info, how you make triggers to get connected, and how you can execute a proper stage life cycle throughout all these third parties coming through. Sometimes you want to, provide notifications, you want to receive information from other third party components. So in the must of or in the need of the term of usability or properties that you can consume from ServiceNow as a consumer or ServiceNow as a publisher, some people they are not aware of that. And even if you want to make a really great evolution of the system, one of the key points or the key evolutions is that you can start consuming the environment accurate or properly done with this term. Sometimes people, they are not aware of what is a CMDB, of what is CSDM. And they start making the implementation, they start following up, and then people is asking, all right, which are your configuration items? Which is your customer strategy? Which is your common service data model? Where do you have your service or service offerings? And people is like, well, we wanted to, provide an implementation for HR. Yes, but HR gets a feed with all the other application service components and different, entitlements that we got through. We got a question here, so give me a sec. Let me check here. We got a question?
No, no questions yet.
Oh, I was wondering if we got a question. So one of the other topics that I would like to clear out here is once you start building a platform or you start, creating the value for the system, one of the main reasons that people they have resiliency or sometimes they have long conversations is how we are going to get compliance, how much compliance, how much service level management I can control, where is the control units, how I can know that I'm working under the expected value that I would like to go through. Remember that one of the things that ServiceNow should provide to you is the added value. So most of this comes when you go through the governance and accountability, which people goes through and which people works with. Some of you already are aware of the RACI matrix: responsible, accountable, compliance, or communicated and information. Sometimes here in NowCreate, you already have the info. You know who participates, who works with, who is in the title of, who has the responsibility, who has the accountability, who will be communicated or complied to, and who will be informed in case needed. So one of the things that NowCreate does as well, it's giving you the governance, giving you the practical adoption of knowing who does what they do and what they are committed into, which is easy. And it's going to be basically your pinnacle to make successful actions or successful implementations coming through. So here we go. If we already have and we already align our system sets, we already know that we have an instance, we have our environment, we have dev, tests, and production. We already have the URLs, we have the licensing. We want to start where we can begin, how we can decide, how we can align, and we can make this adoption set coming through. So step number one, we need to know our WBS. We need a work breakdown structure. Same as we do any project around, ServiceNow can build our work breakdown structure. We can build our WBS. How we do it? Well, there is a hierarchy. Even that we work with Agile, there is a hierarchy to know who can approve, who can reject, and who can accept all the different configuration changes and adoption sets that we are going to do in the platform. So the main action of step number one, once you want to, mature your processes and you want to go from the crawl, walk, and run, it's who's working on and what they are doing. So you need to have a clear, structured decision-making framework. You're not going to ask to the process owner if they allow us to build a business rule, a UI policy, if they would like to, make it better for the portal or the reaction sets or the integrations. So, that could be something you can build out without hesitation, and then you can just present and make it as an added value for the system. So one of the things is place your people in the right roles and put them in the right responsibility or accountability to manage the right processes. The other thing is, right, how you can measure or how you can build out what they are doing. We go back again to the governance and compliance. Well, if I already created a work breakdown structure needed into who will be accomplishing or who will be completing the stories, who will be following the epics. I already have an engagement manager, scrum master, project manager, the way you want to call it out. What is my definition of done? When I'm done on a sprint, when I'm done on an epic, when I'm done on this different task or different processes or phases that I have on my implementation, who's the one that can inform or who's the one that can provide me the mechanisms or the actions or the evaluations or the results to let me know, hey, here we go. Here's what we have already done. This is our DOD. This is our definition of, and we have already completed this. And now it's our turn to pass it by to the users to see if that works or not, if that is what they expected through. And finally, and not
We,
last,
we do, we do have a question around the roles if you want to take that right now.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thomas, I'm
Yes.
watching here. Thomas is telling me, in my experience, it's like the functional roles that are mentioned are not in our glossary. What would you recommend to go from a crawl to walk in mapping the roles? It's a really good term, Thomas. Is a really good question. I'm going to give it to you in a vocabulary aspect, and then we can answer it on a type base. If we go back again to this slide, and we are talking about the importance of a governance and site implementation, we cannot define our hierarchy or our structure based, and please don't think about it on this, never think that the role that we already have related in ServiceNow, calling for the action of configuration, might be the role on a WBS. That's totally different. What I recommend is before beginning, and here I'm going to stop the presentation for a minute, Brita, just to, if you allow me for a minute to show up, I'm going to share NowCreate. And here's one of the things that I always tell people. Don't think that NowCreate it's something that you have to consume with your corporate email. I created a demo for you that you can use your personal email. And here you have Now Learning, NowCreate. And here I have my instance. So Thomas, related to your question, don't go and don't rely that the table of roles will be your controller because they are not here. If I type here, for example, UI, or if I go directly with UI, check that I have tons of roles that they are related for the modules, but not for the user interface. Sometimes for the user interface, you can place designer, people that are around on the block working for the experience, color, style sheet, many people that could be working on a portal, on the workspace, and they are not related to the hierarchy. One thing is who is granted to access what, and the other thing is who is controlling the process or the operation set according to what. So here, the cool thing in NowCreate is when you go to the methodology, and here, for example, if you consume or you start checking, right, check that we are giving you ebooks, we are giving you programs, we are giving you a lot of information. And if you already have, let's suppose you already have implemented, let's go with a simple one, right? And we go to, let's suppose, modernize the ITSM, and we got it here, the package. Check that here, for example, inside ServiceNow, we don't have an OCM role directly. We don't have this OCM role directly, or we don't have a support role. We have assignment groups, or we have people going through. So one of the things that I do, or I combine, or I have been in the experience process is first, you can build your WBS structure, seeming from your customer perspective and then from the hands-on perspective, who will be the people consuming or configuring the platform. And then you can start relying on where and what they will be doing. So if you ask me, there is a glossary? Not exactly, because every company is different. So what we have to do is we have to create our glossary. You have to establish. So check that one of the cool things is get started. I know that maybe that step is not here. That will be one of the steps that you have to do for crawl walk. So before beginning of the objective of making the kickoff meetings, and this is one of the cool things, in the kickoff meetings, you should present the hierarchy of who will be working and what they will be doing, what they are responsible for, because sometimes the kickoff meetings is just getting through or knowing each other. Hi, I'm Felipe, I'm the trainer. Nice to meet you. And that stops. But all right, what Felipe is going to be committed to? What is the compliance that Felipe has to do? Where Felipe appears, right? Where is Felipe showing up? Oh, wait a minute. Felipe is on enabled training. Before Felipe goes to enabled training, is there any phase else that Felipe needs to be aligned or Felipe needs to go through? Oh, we have Brita. Brita will be the OCM. So Brita starts with us at the beginning. Check. We need to understand resources. We need to provide, we need to educate the people. We need to provide the advisory on how we are going to work, when we are going to do, and how we are going to do it. Sometimes we start because there is a lot of pressure. And I know, trust me, we all know that there is time consumption, and time, it's money, and time is gold. But here, the most important value is if you have great baseline actions, that gives you the alignment or that gives you the process to make it faster. You know, baseline actions will be giving you the proper rights to interact with the other platform settings. Because if you already have everything, then your system goes through. One of the things that people never touches, and we come back to this story. This is a Lamborghini. I don't need to align the value. Check that aligning the value gives you that WBS, gives you the structure to kick off properly the meeting, not only making presentations, but as well providing what they will do and how they will do it. And as well, people will have clear view on the definition of who, what, and why, because that's basically the story, right? Who, what, and why. That's basically what you create on stories. Who will be, what they would like to do, or what is needed to be done, and how we are going to do it, which will be the configuration. So if we keep it simple or we make it meaningful, the starting points and initiate are the adoption sets that you have to define. And some people are, no, 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 wait a minute. We have to emphasize ourselves on the workshops, because people is always telling me, no, the most important here is the workshops, because in the workshops, we will get the stories. How you know if these stories will be right if you don't know who will be covering the stories or which roles will be the accurate ones to go through. So here is basically, as I'm telling you, and this webinar is for this reason, right? Giving you accurate properties or accurate system sets where you can use, you know what? I think we have been doing it properly, but yeah, I think we haven't missed, and we have been missing here not only introductions, what we are going to do in the kickoff. You should be telling who will be responsible. And that's basically one of the things you do as executive kickoff, to know which of the objectives which are the alignments, or which are the key milestones that you would like to acquire or you would like to accomplish through. And then the project team kickoff. Check that they are different. One thing, it's ensures that the project leadership, it's aligned, right? That they are properly committed to the support of the business value case. And check what we go here, align the value, right? If you don't align the value properly, how you can make the kickoff meeting. So if you check, this is a puzzle piece, but you have to use the pieces accurate, just like building a Lego. If you know how to build your Lego, well, you will have a really good strategy and a really good adoption set. Hope, Thomas, this has been kind of solving your question. I know I extended a little bit of steps, but this is to clarify and make the clear view for everybody on how to consume it. So, do we have a glossary? No, we will have to build it out. Can I use, or can I have a baseline action from what I know it's already on NowCreate? Yes. Should I always give it by out of the box of what NowCreate provides to me? That depends on you, or that it's your decision. Why? Because every company is different. So shall we crawl and walk in the mapping roles? No. The answer is the role, it's not making the definition of who and what they will be responsible for. The role on ServiceNow gives you the accurate responsibility or maturity on knowing what to touch or how to touch it, which means the compliance on accurate access for module, platform components, and configuration sets, which sometimes they seem similar, but they are different. Hope this clarifies your question, Thomas. Anybody else? Rita, giving back to you.
Yep, we don't have any other questions at the moment, so we'll go back to the presentation and we'll pick up here with governance or
Yep.
continue.
And then, as we already defined here, right? We were showing the mapping. Once we already define a good structure, we already know who will be responsible, how they will be doing things, and the automation sets followed by the system. Then it's just a matter of, you know, as every sprint we have reviews, retrospective actions, and as well, one of the things that I always tell people, it's get the feedback from your users. Don't expect that every feedback comes out of the sprint, of the workshop, or the decision makers. Sometimes the continuous improvement culture should be including people, knowing the structure. And sorry that I'm going to read this carefully, but it's telling you a robust governance model fosters a culture of continuous improvement, allowing organizations to adapt their strategies and processes, evolving needs and challenges. Not all the needs will be coming from what you define or what you have already decided on your first stage on the workshops. Sometimes users are not involved as much as we want to. And that's basically sometimes a gap on, making things better, or having the chance to, close and make it even as a customer need set or giving that added value for them. But the VOC, or the voice of the customer, or the voice of the end users or the employees inside our companies, if that's what we are doing, implementing for our own company, that's basically my main vote. I always trust on the people telling me, you know what, this should have highlighted this value, or you know what, we can make it simple if we can, get it from this placement or get it from this order. Sometimes we have service catalogs that are so complex, or we have procedures that they are really extended, and they need 3, 4, 5 approvals to get it done. Sometimes people is, you know what, for example, my vacations, they need to be passed by 3, 4 people. Do we have a chance to make it shorter, make it simple, make it smarter, or we have to wait? So those are things that sometimes listening or having an active listening structure gives you tons of opportunities to clarify, have a better vision, 360 overview of over the system, and give you the enhancement on where to attack, what to adapt, and what to involve.
Then we're gonna give Philippe a little chance to rest his voice here, and we're gonna take a quick poll here. So on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how much time do you spend using ServiceNow documentation and materials? I just kind of want to get a feeling for like how many of you are, in there using NowCreate, product docs, etc. So it looks like we have at least occasional usage, and regular usage looks to be fairly high. Whoops, we got a no usage just popped up in there in a once in a while. So these are kind of going a little bit all over the place, which is interesting. And that's why we run these webinars, because I think there's a lot of misinformation or lack of information out there in the ecosystem as far as what kind of documentation and content we have available and where to find it. So hopefully at the end of this webinar, you'll have a higher confidence level in that. So we're pretty much across the board, and it looks like once in a while or regular usage are winners there. So that's kind of interesting. And then that'll lead us to move on to our next section here about maturing the model in ServiceNow.
All right. So next step, we already watched NowCreate. We know that it's an enhanced methodology. It's really big. Getting the consumption takes time, and I know that sometimes maybe some people will be shocked, or they start reading, checking, making the value property, and they start like evaluating, wow, what I'm doing. How can I consume it better? How can I go through, and how can I, make the adoption and make that satisfaction, not only for my side, not only from the side of the platform owner or the system administrator or the TC or the VPC, how we can make this action, make it better. Uh, One of the typical things that we want to, highlight here is, once you start creating a maturity modeling, one of the things is, what are your main objectives? Don't forget your main objectives. Remember that every structure that we place up on ServiceNow has an intention. And sometimes, due to the fact that you connect quite much to the platform related to scripts, script includes fixes scripts, actions needed, business rules, and you start, making that word of no code, low code, pro code actions, you totally forget where you have to be aligned through and what to know, to do. So one of the things is framework for evaluation. What is a framework for evaluation? Try to see how NowCreate adapts to your company, and then check the details that will be giving you, or it's kind of teaching you the real highlights or objectives that you can consume here, right? That will be one of the most important things that you can go through. So the framework for evaluation means not only how successful my implementation goes, it's how my system is making that current process. How can I make, or how can I check timeframes? For example, platform analytics, which is right now our next generation report action. So the data visualization will be one of the typical consumption sets, giving you how you can evaluate or how you can satisfy your implementations. And as well, remember once we go through alignment with business goals, we have to always align what is the objective or the main highlight to go through, not the DOT only. Remember, that's why we have some meetings at the first stage, but sometimes we forget that those meetings can be adjusted or can be redesigned or can be double checked. Meanwhile, we are advancing. Remember, every corner or every side of the individual contributors we have in ServiceNow or we have outside of the platform has a really meaning value, which means sometimes we are quite agnostic on only watching the platform that we forget the voice of the people. Remember, voice of the customer, it's a really pinnacle in the success of making things faster or making things better for your implementation. So once you make this alignment, try not only to follow up NowCreate, the structures, the workshops, the stories, but as well try to verify how the people of your organization is watching this term or this watching this evolution. Once you pass from the direct action of the execution delivery to the transition, when you check to the UAT, start making other workshops. Sometimes people is not aware of that. And this is one of the things we discussed with Brita last time in a webinar, that we were with platform owners or service owners. And sometimes you complete your action, which means, all right, we complete the workshop, everything is done. Ciao, all good. But what about the UAT? What about the prod? What about the kickoff? We completed the first stage, but did you evaluate? Did you analyze if there is a gap between your decision maker, which is your dev, throughout the UAT, which are the other milestones that maybe you are not counting in, which means people that is around the globe or people that is around the ecosystem, and they have a voice, but they haven't been able to tell you, you know what, we want to include this, and it's basically something that you have in your mind, but you didn't open up to, or you didn't include it on your first actions. So here, the alignment of business goals includes not only what you have to do, but as what you are capable to. Because sometimes people is, as I'm telling you, so focused in what you have to deliver because time is running and you are in that rush of delivering, and you are not including things that could be simple, could be included, and could be giving you more value and could represent more interaction of the people that is going to use the platform rather than the concentration of completing a sprint. So be aware on business goals. Keep it as well simple, because sometimes people is wondering to touch the sky, but we have to go by steps. So be really careful on that. And then this gives us the next, scale action, which gives us the crawl, walk, run maturity, which is incremental improvement pathway. One of the things that I always tell people is, don't think that at the first stage you will have everything done. Out of the box is great. Yep, out of the box is great. But sometimes the out of the box of the platform, being honest, covers 80 to 90% of the total effectiveness and objectives of what a company or customer needs are. So you have to be really careful. You have to be intuitive. You have to make the adoption of checking where other actions can be fit and how you can make a complement, how you can make an interactive response to go through. Now, here in the incremental improvement pathway, one of the things that we will be watching, not only for Xanadu, but Yokohama and Zurich, and I do believe most of you have been watching this since sales kickoff, it's the agents. Agents will transform this incremental improvement in a highway performance. How you will do it? Well, virtual agent, predictive intelligence, performance analytics, service portal, all these features that we have seen growing the platform from the people that knows 2017 up to 2022, we have seen an incremental growth on how they have been transforming companies on retail, logistics, governance, compliance, public safety, healthcare. environmental, government risk, social compliance. They have been transforming the units from faster track speed to, milestone adoption. So one of the things is be really careful on how you do it. So let's go into really recap function here. So one of the things that we have to go into maturity implementation once we crawl and walk, it's foundation building essentials. We already talked about it. Once again, you have to establish a great people solution. You have to know what you are going to do, how you're going to do it. Use properly the mapping and the phases of NowCreate. If you need to validate who goes there and what they have to do, double check it. Take your time because that will be the pinnacle of success for the next stages or the next phases. And then you already know continuous improvement. Check every action you're doing provides a value. If that action that you are building on your implementation gives a value or it's included and people is watching that this has a functioning, has a property to go through, it gives you a great action or it gives you success or it gives you enhancement on something that people wants to watch or wants to work through, that's the right path. Other than that, before, and this is one of the things I always do once I'm training, I always check, and I know that some of you, from the folks that you're joining this webinar, you know that ServiceNow is always giving you surveys. This is something that we are not going to talk about it, but surveys will not be the only way, to control or assure that you are making an evolution or that you are making growth. Because sometimes you make a survey to know how close you think your or the platform is solving your problems to you from 1 to 5 scale. So they are giving you, you know what? I didn't know the platform. I received education. I was in the training. I participated. I have been clicking some ways. And well, yeah, the platform works. And I can give you a 5. Well, some people they think if the platform works, I give you a 5. But how can I guarantee that when you click, I'm solving all your needs? And here's where we shall assess the maturity on the different scopes of the platform, following ITSM, CSM, FSM. Sometimes, and I have seen this in the past, I remember a company that we were fixing up, a telephony company, not given the name, but they were working ITSM, CSM, and FSM. And they were working NowCreate, but they didn't know that they have to relate or they have to rely on one process to accomplish the other, and then finally make it happen to go through the next stage. I know that some of you know, some others are not aware, but inside ServiceNow, in the NowCreate solution, you have some components that you can start consuming or you start getting or linking the different scopes or the different environment sets. You can verify the capabilities, how they get close to. Because one thing is customer voice, the other thing is service desk. And sometimes you have to make that link and you have to make that relation to transform the actions on what will be on-site technical support, what will be remote support, and what will be customer emphasis solutions. This company was not enclosed to know all these deals together, and they thought they were already optimized. And we were like, can we give you a solution? I think you already have what it needs to be done in the initial set, and you have managed your processes, but you need to define the relations. You need to connect everything to work together. But they thought at that point that they were already mature. And at some point, we were going back again to basics. We were doing workshops where we were trying to who connects with the technical consultant? A call. All right. So you have to call the guy. Do you know that you can set notifications that you can assign that person into the same ticket? That then after this ticket gets raised, you can create a work order? They didn't know that. So everything was manual. And things involved here, as I'm telling you, once you try to assess, you need to reach how people make relationships together How can I make the work that I'm doing easy for the other people coming by? Sometimes you are in tier one service desk and you don't know what next stages are going to be. Tier two, tier three, research and development. So one of the things that you need to do is at some point, step number 3 is really important. Define the processes or main characteristics of what I'm doing and how can I help the other people? How can I enhance? This is one of the things that I always tell as well once people is implementing. Not everything has to be automated. Not everything has to be manual. We sometimes, as individual sets, we have the capacity of making a great alignment or a great view of knowing what can be done and what can be automated or what we can leave manual because maybe it's going to be really complex and we never touch it due to the risk, due to be frightened a little bit, due to be shy, and we don't want to make a big innovation right now. But one of the things is if you already have great relationships in different departments and you already have your environment capable to, manage situations or manage this complex actions that we'll be going through, then it's just your time to, start consuming the action.
Yeah, I don't want to break your flow here, Philippe, but we are getting close on time. So I want to make sure you cover everything you want to cover here because I know you're very passionate about this. So we have about 10 minutes left. So let me know, where you want to go with the rest of the slides here.
Yeah, we can advance, but this topic was really important. So I wanted to show you before the poll.
Yeah, and then we'll just take a quick poll here and then we'll get back to it. So where in the scale maturity do you see your company with ServiceNow and NowCreate? So go ahead there and throw in your answer real quick. Then we'll let Philippe power through the rest of his amazing presentation here. All right, so we've got very low and low seems to be the consensus on this. So that'll give you plenty to talk about in your next slides.
All right, so we know that the main idea of this webinar is rare. We know that at some point we use NowCreate, but we don't use it the way it is, or we don't use it the right way it should be. Right? Why? Because we are not aware on the potential or we are not aware on the causes. So things that we have to do, we have to create maturity evaluations. Once you make a step forward, how did it well? Did we make it well? Did we make it progress? How much progress did we build? How the people is feeling. One of the things that I always check here, and please validate that I want to emphasize here. One of the things we are doing with this type of methodologies coming from, Start Now, SIM, ServiceNow Implementation Methodology, or SAIF, ServiceNow Adaptive Implementation Framework. ServiceNow has been making tons and tons and tons of evolutions and evaluations throughout the cycles. Since 2015, I have seen ServiceNow making not only evaluations on how to make it better, how to change it, how to define, how to make the name. It's as well make the steps right to the different processes. So here, once we talk about maturity evaluations, and then the next step, which is continuous improvement, this gives you the chance to, combine both and align the units to see how your platform is working for people. That's why we are talking about culture. And once you are already done, if you want to make maturity, you have to educate people. There is no way if you are not educating or you are providing the people in the right concept. So here, one of the things that I would like to ask you before we go to the best practices, how many of you are aware that in NowCreate, you got more than 1,000 template actions to use for your implementations? And I mean it seriously, more than 1,000. Sometimes people is not consuming the right accurate documentation before beginning an implementation. So one of the things that you have to do and is, going through the system is Remember, ServiceNow has the methodology, has the success packages, which is basically how we want to work through, like we call it in the beginning, the Lamborghini of ServiceNow. And then the other things will be the assets. The assets are really, really important to build and sustain your action. So there's not only Excel spreadsheets or PDFs, you still have PowerPoints. And if you need more info, one of the things that you can go through, or you would like to see how people is using the tool or the framework inside ServiceNow, currently, you have the Customer Success Center. Sometimes you don't have the time to visit all these links. As a trainer, I always show to my students where they have to go through, because sometimes people is so emphasized on reading a book on training, doing the labs, but they are not aware that they will be implementation specialists. And an implementation specialist means I have to follow up some stage sets. And one of the things that I have to do to make even better, or to be a proficient area, a personal expert or a subject matter expert, is I need to have support. I need to have material. I need to have a library where I can consume and I can go through as well. Remember, the ServiceNow community, come on, we have tons of people right now. I would like to give really great kudos for the people that is right now with us in the area of the MVP. So I'm amazed for that. And thank you so much for helping and contributing, everybody. So going once again, here is one of the typical tips and points here. It's sometimes we have that discussion. I'm not going to go really farther because we can have a webinar for this time, and will be configuration versus customizations. What is a configuration? Well, everything you can touch and everything that has a sense of useful action that makes it better for the consumption of the platform. What is a customization? Out of the limits, going out of the borders that ServiceNow allows to you. It's not only going into coding, be aware of this. So this is something that I always tell people, be really careful. For customization, do I have to go with licensing? Do I have to use another plugin? Do I have to go through and consume other actions? Remember, go to the system, check your system. There are tons of things that you can use on the ServiceNow store that they are for free. You can use tons of things that they are in share for free. There are things that you have already built up. ServiceNow has built up things for you for free. Even if not, you have trials. You have things that you can start consuming, acting. And as well, the assets will be giving you that capability to know where you can touch, how to touch, and how complex could be the configuration or the customization. Things that I always tell, and you watch once we were sharing the view of NowCreate. NowCreate right now, if you go directly to the link, is showing you a message. It's telling a new version of implementation and upgrade methodologies. We have released a new version of the implementation and upgrade methodologies on NowCreate. So the importance on sustaining your platform. Remember, if you are a little bit behind, go on check, go on evaluate. One of the things is the support. That's number one. Support means a lot. Deprecation has tons of problems, right? Be really careful. Do I have to always be on early stage? That's not what I mean, right? Because sometimes I know companies, they love to, let's jump on Yokohama right now. It's early availability. Let's try. You can try with a PDI. You can try and offer it to the company. Let's check, let's evaluate, let's bring some of our demo data or our production data over here, and let's check how the system behaves. You don't need to go directly to your customer instance and build up. That's why ServiceNow offers tons and tons of PDIs, right? So one of the things that we go with this topic that I'm telling you is security enhancement. Check that everybody is aware on how the system gets through, how the system goes, and as well, validate your update security processes, which means sometimes we want to exclude actions or we want to make things over the system. Then another type of information will be, we already talked about it, gateways, UI, UX, things that can be consumed, things that can be deployed. So the user experience improvement, it's in the area that gives you not only value for the company itself, but as well gives you the area on coverage or needs. So one of the things that I always do with the same type of actions that we were discussing before, as well for evaluations or surveys that you can place up, check how people is feeling with the material that they are using. Sometimes people is, you know what, I'm clicking, 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 going, but I'm going nowhere. And nobody's fixing me. Nobody's helping me. So one of the things is how you feel managing the tool. Remember, voice of the customer is the key point or similarity actions to perform greater actions or greater processes, not only in the family release actions of ServiceNow, but as well given the complex situations, keep it simple and solving the scenarios that people goes through. Every time that a customer or an end user is facing an action and we don't solve it, that's where we start losing our people and we don't have that type of consumption. Sometimes I know, and I have seen that before. And this is one of the examples that I want to clear out to pass to the next slide. Sometimes people, they are, you know what? I try to use the platform because I don't have chance to go to the mobile. I don't even have a guided tour to make things happen. So you have to be really careful. And remember, governance. Governance gives you checklist. In ServiceNow, you have as well checklist. One of the things that I always recommend and going to this stage of the slides, building a supportive governance is, have you been able to create your ITPs? I know ServiceNow is not, enabling those actions, but sometimes I trust my customers and I tell people or I tell my students, build your own implementation testing plan. You can do it nowadays with ATF. In the old days, we have to use Excel spreadsheet with the stories, and then I have to use another spreadsheet to create my implementation testing plan to build out the steps and the things that I have to do. Nowadays, or you can do it all on your own way, or you can use ATF. You decide, that will be the action. So check, there will be an ATF for Yokohama in March. Stay tuned for those type of webinars because they will be telling you what we are covering as well over here. And one of the things is check, if you do things properly done, you will have resource allocation efficiency, which means trying to cover who and what will be done. As I was telling you, the example of the company that had problems in the past of ITSM, CSM, and FSM. And once you do this, your risk mitigation will low really, really, really behind of values. Why? Because you have already been so proactive and you have been taking action on the different stages and sets that at some point, if you go and evaluate once again, for the ones that are interested on GRC or uh, processes that goes with risk management or RAM, risk assessment management actions, sometimes once you know that you have been watching or watchdogging your implementation, then you have a quick action access to avoid risk inside your implementation that could cause, you know, time, value, or tons of actions that might be needed.
All right, well, we are a little bit past the top of the hour. I know that was a ton of information to consume, and sorry I had to rush you along a little bit there, Philippe, but we try to start and end on time. So appreciate all of you hanging out with us today. Just a reminder, there'll be a quick survey at the end of the webinar. Please, 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 I know we're inundated with surveys these days, but just if you could take a few moments to fill that out to let us know how we're doing, and also to let us know what other subjects you'd like to see in the future. And I provided a link in the chat where the recording and the deck will be available probably by tomorrow. And also I'll post a LinkedIn post with the link on that as well. So I want to thank you all for attending today and hope you all have a great rest of your day.